here we go. Today we are beginning our crochet unit, and crocheting is definitely one of my favorite things to do. For instance, I crocheted my Flower Girls dress. So naturally it's something that I'm really passionate about and hope to pass along to you guys, and that you find it as relaxing and enjoyable as I do. We're spending the whole class just learning how to do the absolute basics of crochet, which would be tying a slip knot, chaining, single crochet, and fastening off. In terms of supplies, you're going to need 15 yards of yarn, a 5mm crochet hook, scissors, and a tapestry needle. Now, in order to get your yarn, I have these little stations at various places within the classroom that have a skein of yarn, a yardstick, and scissors. So all you really have to do, for instance, for this one you need 15. You just pull the yarn out 15 times to make sure that you have that length, cut it off, and then you take it back to your desk. In order to roll it into a ball, all you really have to do is kind of create a little loop like this, and then just wind that yarn around and around and around and around, kind of changing directions, making sure that it all holds together till you have just a tiny little ball like this. It sort of reminds me of building like a rubber band ball. Now, pretty much anytime you start a crochet project, you need to start with something called a slip knot. So to create this, we're going to pull out the tail, lay it parallel to the yarn that's attached to the ball, twist it over like this, and then we're going to grab that tail and pull it through the loop that we created. So again, we pull out a tail, we lay that parallel to the yarn attached to the ball, we pick it up, we twist this, and then we pull that tail through the loop that we've created. The next is chaining. Now the hook is facing like this, the yarn is coming out to the left. And what you need to do is yarn over like this, grab the yarn with the hook, and pull it through. Again, you yarn over, grab the yarn with the hook, and pull it through. Each time you do this represents a stitch. So if you look at the chain, you should see these little V's on one side. For our sample swatch we're making today, you will need to chain 20. So I'm going to show you with just 6 stitches so that you can see this process just a little bit more clearly. Once you get to this point, we are ready to begin our first row. Now every time we start a new row, we need to chain 1 extra, and this is called a turning chain. I won't really get into why we have to do this in order to keep it simple. Just know that this is necessary in order to keep the number of stitches consistent. So I will chain 1 for my turning chain, and now I am ready to do my first single crochet stitch. So for this first stitch only, I need to go into the second chain away from the hook. So if you look at your work, it should be not this little V right next to your hook, but the one to the left. This is the first chain we are working back into. To make this single crochet, I take my hook, go into this V, yarn over, and pull that yarn through. And now we see that there are 2 loops left on the hook. So to finish off, we will yarn over and pull through both of these stitches. And that is all there is to creating a single crochet. So for the rest of our first row, we will just be going into the next stitch every single time. So to show you the next single crochet, we are going into this V right next to what we just did. And the one after that will be here and repeat ad nauseum. So we go into this V, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through 2. Again, we go into the V, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through both stitches. When we reach this last stitch, it looks a little bit like a caterpillar. And this is sort of the anatomy of the work that we have here. The tail coming out at the bottom. To the right of that, the yarn attached to the ball, also known as the working yarn, and these little V's on top. If your work looks like this, you're ready to proceed to row number 2. If it does not, then you know that you goofed up somewhere, and I can come over to help you individually. So row number 2, we begin by chaining 1 and turning the work. Now to know where to go next, we will look at the top of the work and see all our little V's, which represent stitches. There are 2 little bars to this V. And the one is closest to you is the front loop, and the one that is furthest is the back loop. For this little swatch we are making, for every following row, we will be going into the front loop only. So again, the first single crochet of the row is a bit different than every other because we're going to skip a stitch. We then go into the front loop only, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through 2. Now just like we did for the last row, we will go into the next stitch to the left, yarn over, pull through, yarn over and pull through both stitches, and repeat that until the end of the row. And it is just a continuation of those steps until it is the desired length. So I reach the end of row 2, I chain 1, turn the work, and single crochet into the second stitch from the hook, and then single crochet to the end of the row. As you go, now and then I like to count how many V's I have to make sure that I'm maintaining the correct number of stitches. So for yours, it would be 20. For the one that I'm doing to demonstrate, I would make sure that I have 6. So say for instance, I get to the end of a row, I would just pull my work so that I can see those V's, and I would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little V's, so then I know that I still am doing this correctly. I still have the right number of stitches. Now for your swatches, you need to repeat this process until you have a swatch that is at least a square, but definitely when you reach the point where you feel very confident in this process. And you can tell it's a square most easily by folding it over like so and seeing that the ends match up. The last thing that you will need to do once you reach the end of your final row is fasten off and weave in the ends. To do this, all you need to do is loosen up the loop on your hook, cut the yarn attached to the ball, leaving enough for a medium-sized tail, feed that tail through the loop, and pull it tight. Now once you've done this, you take your tapestry needle and weave the end about 3 or 4 times back into the work to hide it, and cut it off with the scissors. You do the same thing with the tail from when you started, and with that you have a finished swatch. So once you're all done with this, just take a picture of it, put it on canvas, and I will grade it. Next time we're gonna use the same concept and some things from the felt plush unit to create these pumpkins.
What you doing in the club on a Thursday? She said she only here for a girl birthday.